time management tips, right? The first one is, and there's, I believe, 7 total. So do a time audit. So here's a simple method for conducting a time audit. So you would set a timer to go off every 30 minutes. You'd begin the timer and just go about your day. So just go about doing your task, you're working, whatever it is that you're doing for the day. When the timer goes off, you would write down what you're doing at that very moment. And you have to be honest. Are you checking Instagram? Are you sending a funny text to your best friend, and own up to that? And then from there, you would repeat the process until the end of the day. So you would decide a day that you're going to do this audit. And it's really to see how productive were you with your time? How did you really manage your time throughout the day? Review how you spent your time and how often were you caught doing something that wasn't productive. So when we say like, oh, I don't have enough time to get all these things done, do you, or are you using your time efficiently? Okay, so that's do a time audit. Next is block out distractions. So earlier, one of the challenges that Skylar had mentioned was the multiple distractions. So again, you want to block out things that are distracting you, and then take note of that. Try to catch yourself when you're getting distracted. So close out the multiple tabs that you have open. can be guilty of having what seems like 5,000 tabs open, that when I opened at 9 a.m., why is that tab still open at 4 p.m.? And I'm not working on that anymore. So close out the tabs that you don't need. And then you can ignore notifications, or if you have trouble ignoring them, just turn them off for like that hour if you really need to focus on something. And then if calls come through and you know you don't have time for a long conversation, let it go to voicemail, listen, and then listen to that voicemail. If the person leaves a voicemail, if they don't leave a voicemail, it's probably not important. But listen to that voicemail, and then you can decide, like, do you need to call them back immediately? Is it urgent? Or can you set a time using that Eisenhower matrix? You can decide on the time to call them back later in the day, and then just make sure that you follow through with that. Next one. Schedule yourself in time blocking. So that was actually one of the techniques that we talked about, was the time blocking. So blocking out your day helps keep you focused and your priorities in line. You might set aside 30 minutes for answering your emails, 1 to 2 hours for writing a report or doing paperwork, whatever it might be, 1 hour for prepping, and so on. And then if you have a shared corporate calendar, you can also remind colleagues not to interrupt you, like maybe during a specific or important time that you need to focus. You can have no interruptions. Another thing that you could do that works easy is just write on a Post-it, put it on your door outside, like in meetings, please don't disturb unless urgent, something like that. So that's a nice visual for people so they don't just come into your office. Use task batching. So task batching is a practice of grouping similar or related tasks together and doing them in one batch. We kind of mentioned this earlier a little bit too. So such as emails, calls, or meetings. For advisors, I would group parent emails all together or group all my progress reports together, like working on that so my brain's not shifting. You may think you're good at multitasking, but odds are you're wrong. So we were talking about this earlier. If you're ineffective at multitasking, then that won't help you be effective with your time. Shifting can sometimes just use more bandwidth to have to shift back and forth between tasks. If you want to make sure you don't forget about something, this is what I do. I'll keep a notebook handy or use my Google Keep, and I will just jot down really quickly to get back to whatever that was and then get back to the task I'm working on. Okay, next one. Insist that others respect your time. So every meeting should have to justify its existence, and every meeting organizer should have to justify your required attention. So advocate for yourself if you feel that there's a meeting that you don't need to attend. So talk to your supervisor about that, or whoever's leading that meeting. If you're kind of wondering, like, why are we having this meeting? Like, thought we just talked about this already. So I've been in this position, not at CIP, but in another role where I felt like, I don't know why we're having this meeting. And then it's just taking time away from some other important tasks that you need to do. So just make sure that you advocate for yourself and ask do you really need to be in that meeting? Maybe somebody else on your team is in it. And so you can focus on that other important task. And then keep your chit chats with coworkers to a minimum. Of course, we love being around each other and getting to know each other at work, but if it's going on too long and it's distracting you from work, or you know that you need to get back to work, respectfully dismiss yourself. from that conversation and just ask to catch up at lunch or after work. And next one. Keep your call to action in mind. So before going into a meeting, whether that's with a student, a family, a coworker, remember what it is that you want to achieve in that meeting and have an agenda if needed, like I was talking about earlier. And then, what is the main goal for that meeting? Or maybe it's 2 to 3 that you're trying to accomplish. And then after the meeting, take a few minutes after that meeting or phone call and to reflect on whether you achieved the outcome that you were hoping for. And if you didn't, make some action items, make a plan so that you can attain it. Okay. Number 7, get enough downtime and rest. So the work that we do as professionals can be mentally and emotionally draining at times. So we must take our breaks, even when we feel like we're in a crunch time or a busier time of our role. You've got to take those breaks. You need to, I've learned this too from CIP, so I want to thank CIP for this, but I used to be guilty of eating my lunch at my desk, or when I worked in a role where I worked remotely, I worked from home, I'd eat my food right in front of my desk. So it's so important to take that time away, take your lunch break, close your computer, eat your meal away from your work, just to refresh your brain and then get back to it. Okay, so take your breaks, maintain your boundaries. That's also flows into maintaining our boundaries, right? So maintain your boundaries so that you can have your wellness in check. And then take your vacation time. That's why we have it. So take your vacation time, take that personal time if you need it. And that's why there's an approval process. Put it in. If it doesn't get approved, it doesn't get approved. So you can find another time to do that, but take your vacation time. When you're rested and refreshed, you're far more likely to tackle your task with focus and with enthusiasm.